We've got 8 days left to find out who's coming back to college basketball from the NBA draft, and some of the names are already trickling in.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host today, Isaac Shaden, and I want to thank you for joining us to get your college basketball content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch, and I want to remind you that you can get every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Special shout out to all of you everydayers out there, as well as all the members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord. So glad that you all are all here. Okay, coming up on the show today, it's Tuesday. Once again, for the second year in a row, we are actually going to get a Power 5 matchup on opening day. It happens too infrequently, and we need more of it. Chris Jans is getting an extension in Mississippi State. Potential roster completion for both USC and Clemson. Not the South Carolina USC. USC. All right. So where we're going to start, though, is thinking about the NBA draft. The combine is officially over now. It ended Sunday, 10 days from then. So that was the 19th up until May 29th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. That is the withdrawal deadline for the early entrants to pull out of the draft and maintain their collegiate eligibility. Today is Tuesday, May 21st. So we got 8 days left. After today, we'll see what happens. We should start getting more and more names trickling in of who's either coming back, who's staying in the draft, or maybe if they just don't say anything, it's because they're staying in, or maybe they're too embarrassed and they're pulling out and coming back. Who knows? But you know, John Rothstein's always going to find out, and we'll talk about it. So I want to mainly focus, because we've got more names on those who are pulling out and returning. And I'll just mention one, and I'll go ahead and say that now, who is staying in. Sounds like, at least as of this point, and that's Louisiana Tech's Isaiah Crawford, the reigning CUSA Player of the Year. He is still going to stay in the draft. But I've got several names I want to mention to you that are returning to college basketball, because that's what it's all about for us. Who's playing on the teams that we're all watching next year? So I want to start in the ACC with Markus Burton, who's coming back to Notre Dame. This was actually announced late last week, but we hadn't touched on it yet, and so I want to talk about him. To me, this is not necessarily a surprise, because he was not invited to either combine, the actual draft combine or the G League version, and so it's like, all right, he's coming back. But Markus Burton is a dude in college basketball. 17.5 points a game last year, 4.3 assists and 3.3 rebounds. Was the ACC Freshman of the Year for Micah Shrewsbury in his first year at Notre Dame. I legitimately think that he could challenge RJ Davis for ACC Player of the Year. He's that level good and that level better than everyone around him on Notre Dame. And that's no disrespect, because there's some good dudes on Notre Dame. They're getting back Braden Shrewsbury and have others. Let's keep in mind, Notre Dame down the stretch last year, they started off 7-16 in overall, 2-10 in the ACC, but then won 5 of their next 6, including beating Wake Forest and Clemson in that stretch, won an ACC tournament game. And so you get both of these guys back, the coach's son, Braden Shrewsbury, you get back Markus Burton, who's going to take steps forward, and you got to feel good about this. I mean, he's going to be one of the best guards, not just in the ACC, but potentially with a breakout America. So keep your eyes on Markus Burton, folks. Should be a great year, and he's got 3 years of eligibility left should he choose to use it. Another sophomore coming back, where I want to head next, is KJ Lewis is pulling out of the draft and heading back to Arizona. Great news for Tommy Lloyd. Played all 36 games for the Wildcats last year. Lewis did average 6.1 points, 3.1 rebounds, 1.9 assists. He's a 6'4" guard, 34% from 3. And so it's like solid numbers, but nothing that overwhelmed you last year. And part of that was he played 18 minutes a game. Didn't really need to do a ton for Arizona because they had so much firepower everywhere, particularly in the backcourt where he plays. You think about Kylan Boswell and Caleb Love, et cetera, and not same position, but Pella Larson, just all of this, Umar Ballo, you go on and on and on. And so the cool thing for Arizona is that with Lewis, yes, you're going to get some of these statistical stuffing moments, but where he really shines is on defense. Should be one of the better, not only perimeter defenders, but defenders, period, in the nation next year. So this is great news, again, for Tommy Lloyd. Big question we're continuing to watch is Caleb Love. Does he ultimately come back to Arizona or not? We'll wait and see on that. Another name, Meechie Johnson, the South Carolina transfer, had committed already to Ohio State, but was in the NBA draft process. But we do know now that he is coming back. He is going to play at Ohio State. For those who are unaware, he actually started his college career at Ohio State, 2 years there, 2 years at South Carolina, and now is going to play for Ohio State. 1 year of eligibility left. And look, remember, they've done a great job getting in a transfer portal class here. Ohio State has Aaron Bradshaw from Kentucky, Sean Stewart from Duke, Micah Parrish is coming in. I mean, it's great. And you add in Meechie Johnson to this, who I think is a really, really good college basketball player. And things could be rolling well for Coach Diebler in round one. A couple other names to be aware of. Jonas Adu, similar kind of situation to Meechie Johnson, had already committed to Arkansas out of Tennessee, but his name was still in the NBA draft. And so there was a possibility that he could stay in. I have assumed all along that he would be a Razorback, be a Hog next year, but you just never know, right? Until, who knows? You go and follow this and maybe you get some kind of guarantee and it's like, hey, Coach Cal, I'm out. Money, right? But Adu is back. He was one of the biggest impact transfer bigs in the portal this offseason, along with the likes of Cliff Amori, Aaron Bradshaw, Danny Wolf, Umar Ballo, etc. And Arkansas was the one that landed him. And keep in mind, this front court should be really good because they've also got Zvonimir Ivisic, who followed Coach Cal from Kentucky. You pair more his lengthy, kind of gangly game to what Jonas Adu brings over from Tennessee and that great defense that he was part of with Rick Barnes last year. And it should be a really good front court. Zvonimir Ivisic had that breakout game when he was first deemed eligible last year. Didn't do a ton after that, but showed glimpses. And maybe with the full offseason, being all in, knowing that he's eligible, hopefully can contribute more for the Hogs this upcoming season. Milos Uzan from Oklahoma is out of the draft. He had already committed to Houston, same as the last couple guys we talked about, will be a Cougar this year. Adama Ball is back to Santa Clara. Andre Jakimovsky, I always have to stop and pause on his name, is going to Colorado. He's leaving Wazoo. And so good for Tad Boyle there, who's losing a lot to the draft. Speaking of which, Scotty Middleton, we talked about Ohio State getting Meechie Johnson. They're losing Scotty Middleton, who's going to Seton Hall. He is coming out of the draft. So a lot of these guys who we already assumed were playing for these new teams that they've committed to. But again, until you actually hear it from their mouths, you just don't know. So obviously there are tons of names we're still waiting on. And, JT Toppin, we're waiting on Coleman Hawkins, we're waiting on Jameer Watkins, all of these names and more. We got to wait to see what's going to happen. And 8 days, we will know what's going to happen with all of these. Now, for the second straight year, thanks to the Hall of Fame series in Las Vegas, we will actually get a Power 5 matchup on opening day of college basketball. But we need more. We'll talk about that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about LinkedIn, when you're hiring for your small business, you really want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which helps find the right professionals for your team faster and for free because they've got the perfect tools to do it. And LinkedIn isn't just some other job board. They help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, like folks that might not even be looking for a job, but if you had the right role for them, they might be in. You just never know. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to help make this process more beneficial to you. They recently just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions. Again, making this process easier and quicker. So post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hallelujah. For the second year in a row on opening day, we're going to get at least one good matchup in men's basketball. From the NCAA on Monday, NCAA March Madness tweeted out, quote, college basketball tips off the 24-25 season on TNT Sports. That's interesting. With the Hall of Fame series Las Vegas, end quote. So last year we had on opening day, Kansas State versus USC in this event, and we had Georgia versus Oregon in this event. That was it. That was the only two games last year between what was last year two Power 6 opponents. Now we lose the Pac-12, but no ACC school on opening day last year played a Power 6 opponent. No Big East school on opening day last year played a Power 6 opponent. No Big 10 school on opening day last year played a Power 6 opponent. Just two Pac-12 schools, a Big 12 school, in an SEC school. Although now it would be a Big 12 school, two Big 10 schools, and an SEC school. Got to keep getting our brains wrapped around all this movement. And so it just, opening day continues to lack in high-level matchups. So thank goodness we continue to get this event on opening day. For a while, we were getting Champions Classic just right there. Now we haven't. It's pushed back about a week into game action. But, Hall of Fame series, Las Vegas, thank you. It's really interesting that this is on TNT. Outside of March Madness, I'm not really used to watching college basketball on TNT, but we will get this one. There's two games that were announced on Monday, one women's game, one men's game. In the women, we're going to get South Carolina versus Michigan. And on the guys' side, we're going to get Texas against Ohio State. So for the women, we kick things off with the reigning national champions. Great stuff there. Excited for that. And then we get Texas against Ohio State. This is two teams that last year just didn't frankly live up to expectations. I picked Texas as a preseason Final Four pick. That clearly didn't happen. You might recall, in fact, that all four of my preseason Final Four picks were all in the same region. So it was never going to happen, but whatever. Anyway, for these two teams, if you've been paying any bit of attention in the transfer portal this year, you know that Texas has lost a good bit. You know that Ohio State's lost a good bit. They've both lost talented players off of their roster, but they both have gotten talented players in. We just talked about Ohio State's transfer class and everyone that's coming in with that. Texas has brought in several as well. And so it's very specifically, I'm really, really looking forward to a backcourt battle that includes Tremont Mark against Meechie Johnson. I mean, what a way to kick off the 24-25 season with those guys going at it. I'm all in on that. And so, look, big thanks to these two teams, and I should say to the women's two teams as well, for doing this. But there's not enough of it happening. We are a sport that is already struggling to catch eyeballs right out of the gate because of college football, because of NFL, because of other things going on. But I am never somebody that wants to say, that's okay. We'll get those eyeballs once the football national championship's done. We'll get those eyeballs once the Super Bowl is over. I don't want to just assume that that's okay. I want to have premier matchups on day one. Like, let's start this thing with a bang. And I'm never going to allow the argument of a coach saying, well, we can't Can't take a big loss on opening day to another highly rated team because then we're off of everyone's radar. Like, I just don't buy that argument. Like in college football, yes, I get it. You can't sustain losses, but college basketball, you can. And quite frankly, you do better for yourself and your schedule and strength of schedule, and therefore your how you look in the eyes of the committee, because they talk about it all the time, non-conference strength of schedule. So why not schedule somebody on opening day? That's a tough game. I know that because of how many more conference games there are now, like Big 12 is going to 20 now. It's harder and harder to get bye games where your teams can get experience, work in new guys, both transfers and freshmen, get the team together. A lot of teams only playing 4 or 5 bye games because of how many commitments they have to other events, like this one, for example. But we need more big games on opening day. So please, coaches, step up, do it. Let's have some. And I know that even if we don't have the matchups, things are still going to happen. Like on opening day last year, you all remember James Madison beating Michigan State. Sure, that's great. And we're going to get stuff like that sometimes, but it's not this planned out high-level major conference team versus high-level major conference team. We need that. So more coaches, please do it. But glad we're getting Texas, Ohio State. Glad on the women's side we're getting South Carolina, Michigan. That will be great. Now, news came out on Monday that Chris Jans has earned himself a contract extension with Mississippi State. USC and Clemson both might have wrapped up their rosters for the 24-25 season. Crazy stuff. We're going to talk about all that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Yahoo Finance. You all know, because I talk about it, I love stats. I love numbers, like so much. I geek out on all this stuff. But for me, it's just not about sports. I love numbers of all kinds. I really enjoy keeping tabs like on how all my investments are doing, how my money is doing. But here's the silly thing. I used to try to keep tabs on it all by myself. I had a bunch of different spreadsheets, was like updating it. If I'd buy a stock, I'd add it to the thing. It's a whole thing. And then finally, and thankfully, my financial advisor said, Isaac, look, you should really check out Yahoo Finance because it does all of that in a one-stop shop to keep track of all your financials. So I looked into it. I checked it out. I tried it. I loved it, and I've never looked back since. You should get in on it too. Yahoo Finance, let me tell you more about it. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're just looking for extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need to make informed decisions and have it all in one place. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective, is what sets apart great investors. And that's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, Yahoo Finance's real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, that's yahoofinance.com. Again, one more time, yahoofinance.com. John Rothstein reported on Monday that Chris Jans, head coach at Mississippi State, has received a contract extension through the 27-28 season. So that means he's locked in for the next 4 years. His salary starting this upcoming season, 24-25, will be up to $4.2 million. Look, I love this. Andy and I have talked multiple times. The SEC, man, it just has great coaches throughout. And I don't say that to bag on any other conference. I just say it to elevate the SEC. For so long, the SEC has been like, it's fine. It's growing. It's got elite teams at times. Kentucky's always there. Sometimes Tennessee or Florida pops up, whatever. Man, y'all, the SEC is so good right now. They're bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. Great coaches everywhere, and Chris Jans is certainly one of them. And I just don't think he gets enough love because he's at Mississippi State. they'll be good, they'll be solid, but not really often elite. Lost, if I'm remembering correctly, lost in the first round to Michigan State last year in an 8-9 game. But just I'm excited for Chris Jans. I'm excited for what this program can do. And I think we're going to see good things out of Starkville, Mississippi. We just got to keep watching for that to happen. On to some personnel news. Kevin Patton Jr., San Diego transfer, has committed to stay on the West Coast and go to USC and join the Muss Bus. Always love dudes hopping on the Muss Bus because the Muss Bus is always rolling, folks. You know that it is. If I have my math right, this is USC's 13th scholarship player, meaning they're done. They're locked and loaded and ready for this upcoming season. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. It might be number 12, but I have 13. So, USC folks out there, let us know. Last year, as a freshman, Patton Jr. had 9.8 points, 4.4 rebounds, 2.4 assists at San Diego. He's a 6'8 wing. I love those numbers, 6'8 wing from a freshman who can develop and be part of this USC system, maybe be a multi-year guy for the Muss Bus. I love it. I mean, getting that in. And look, basketball aside, this is where I love the portal and where I think the portal can be so helpful. Kevin Patton's dad tweeted out that USC was the very first school that his son wanted to attend. And here he is. Started off at San Diego. Now he's making his way up the coast just a little bit to USC. And I mean, it's so cool. At the human level, I love that. And that's one of the things that the transfer portal provides, is opportunities like this. Now, Patton is not just any old guy. Matthew Winnick of The Score noted this on Twitter. Quote, Patton and Zion Williamson from Duke are the only two freshmen in the last decade to post elite block and steal rates with 20 or more made three-pointers. Now, he didn't put specificity on what an elite block rate or elite steal rate is, as he would define it. But regardless of that threshold, whatever it is, the truth is there that don't miss that Kevin Patton Jr. could be this kind of diamond in a rough guy that a lot of people have just missed and could be huge for Musselman at USC in his first year. Because to be able to do those things defensively, to have elite block rates, elite steal rates, as minutes are only going to grow this year, right? And also to be able to make threes like that. It's going to be very helpful for what Coach Musselman's going to do in USC. So we'll keep our eyes out on that. Let's switch from what sounds like one South Carolina school to one that actually is Clemson. Miles Foster, the Illinois State transfer, has committed to Clemson. Similar thing, I believe, if I've got it right, that this concludes Clemson's roster, that he is their 13th scholarship player. 6'7" forward. Last year at Illinois State, 12.4 points a game, 8.1 rebounds, 1.7 assists, 53% from the field. Really effective paint scorer, really good rebounder. And Cliff Spammons, good to see him utilizing my scholarship availability chart on Twitter. I'm fine with that. Like I've put it out there for people to use. And so I'm always happy for people to grab that and use that. It's a very helpful tool to see what's there and available. Now, obviously pending Chase Hunter's decision, I said the roster is intact, has 13, but we got to wait and see what Chase Hunter's going to do for sure. As for Foster, he's got 1 year of eligibility left. And look, one of the things that I'm always looking for with guys that are transferring from good mid-major conferences and good mid-major teams, but up to the Power 5 level, is what can they or what have they done against elite or high-level, high-major teams? Well, last year against Kentucky, our guy Miles Foster had a 20-15 game, 20 points, 15 rebounds. So I think he'll be just fine. Thank you very much against that level of competition. So this is great for Clemson. And hear me say this before I even begin to make this kind of comparison. He's not PJ Hall. No one is going to be PJ Hall for Clemson. They cannot replace him. And Miles Foster is not as tall as PJ Hall. He's like 3 inches shorter. But as you're looking, how do we fill that PJ Hall sized hole? Because Ian Shufflin can't do it all. The chef can't be the only guy in the front court. I think Miles Foster does a lot of good stuff that could help mitigate the loss of PJ Hall. Again, he's got to play bigger than he is and do other things like that. But it's a help, and it's a step in the right direction for sure. And Brad Brownell has brought in multiple really good basketball players. You know, they assuming, hear me say that Chase Hunter's back. That's critical and key, especially since PJ Hall is not deciding to come back. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Congrats to Clemson and congrats to USC on getting that locked up. Congrats to Chris Jans for that extension. I know, just look, the coaching profession is hard, and getting extensions and sticking around and getting paid good money is not easy to do. So I know that's a big moment for he and his family. That's it for today's episode of Locked On College Basketball. Andy Patton will be back with you tomorrow. I believe Leaf Tulane will be with him, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. If you haven't already subscribed to the show on audio and video, please do that. Super easy to do. Just open your favorite podcast platform, subscribe to it on audio. If you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit that bell so you get notified whenever an episode is about to premiere or when we go live. Well, also, if you haven't subscribed to the Locked On College Basketball Discord, we'd love to have you. Come for all the college basketball, stay for the community. It's free to join, and the link is in the show notes. Very seriously, come on, be part of it. Want to say, as always, apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats, and until tomorrow, peace.